Hey everybody, it's great to see you today. Welcome to Living Power, your online Bible study where we are walking through the Bible in a year. Today is March 4th, and we are reading today about the sins of Korah. This is actually a sad story, but it's actually one of my favorite lessons in the entire Bible. It's one of the most impactful applications in my own life that I have never been able to forget. And I want to share that with you today. How can we apply the sin of Korah and what happened to him and what he did to our own life and use it as a great lesson for us? That's what we're going to talk about today. I thank you so much for joining me today. I pray that you will be blessed through this lesson, and of course that's my prayer for you every day when we get to Bible study together. So thank you so much for bringing me into your home or into your place of work, or maybe you've taken with me on vacation, wherever we are studying the Bible together. Let me just say again, it's my privilege, and I'm humbled that you would want to Bible study with me. So today, the sin of Korah is that he has incited a rebellion against Moses. It started with a few people, and then it grew to a lot of people. It started with about 250 people. We read about that in verse 2 of Numbers 16. And then it became wildfire. It spread, and everybody was against Moses. And we read this in verse 19. Now, what was Korah's argument? There were a couple things here I didn't want you to miss. Korah's argument was, number one, Moses didn't have, this was his claim, Moses, you didn't have a right to be our leader. Number two, God is God of all of us, and he qualifies all of us. So what right do you have to be the leader instead of one of us? And number three, that Moses, you haven't really accomplished anything. You haven't led us into the promised land yet. So he was attacking him in that way as well. And he was saying that Moses it wasn't right for Moses to be in that place. And why couldn't they, meaning the Korahites, see, he represented a group of the Levites, is who he was representing. He was a Levite, and they had been given, through the Mosaic law, handed down by God through Moses, to this group of people, special duties and responsibilities at the tabernacle. We're going to talk about those in just a minute, but Korah wasn't happy with that. He wasn't satisfied with the lot, with the role, with the job that God had given to he and his fellows. That's what this is all about. So if we apply this to our life, this really relates to any time we struggle, we are reaching for something that is beyond our grasp, or we are reaching for power. That's really what this was a power play. And I bet you he was thinking in his mind at some point, and the devil puts these thoughts into all of our minds at some point in time. Have you ever had this thought, well, I could do that job a lot better than he or she could. If I was in that job, I would do it differently. If I was in that job, if I was doing that, I could fix this problem. Well, maybe it's not that you have your sight on another person's job and you're not coveting something someone else has. Maybe you're just despising the role that God has given you. Maybe you're just unhappy and complaining about the job or the lot or the task that God has asked you to do at this point in time in your life. This is why this lesson this reading has been so impactful to me, and this story of Korah's rebellion is one that I simply cannot forget, is because I struggle, maybe you do too, with these types of things. These are common temptations that the devil puts in front of us. He wants us to covet things that other people have. He wants us to think higher of ourselves than we should, and the devil just wants to create animosity and discontent in our hearts. And I just want to remind you today that God gives perfect gifts. He gives perfect gifts in His perfect timing. And if He's saying no to you today for something that you've been praying for or something that you've been working towards and it just doesn't seem like you're going to get there, and let me remind you that the Lord is not against you. The Lord is with you. The Lord is on your side. The Lord wants to bless you and prosper you. And so if you're in a role today or you have a task before you that the Lord has given you, I would just encourage you to bring your feelings about that to the Lord and ask Him to give you a contented, thankful heart, to show you all the things in your life that you truly have reason to be thankful for. And the Bible says God inhabits our praises. That's how we turn from complaining and from discontent to a heart of joy and contentment, is through thanksgiving and looking at those things that we're truly thankful for. Unfortunately, Korah didn't quite get there. He was so wrapped up in something that he wanted, something that he thought he deserved, but that he didn't have, that it ended up costing him his life. Moses in the reading today asks him some questions like, is this insignificant to you, the role that the Lord has given you? He was to serve, he and his fellows were to serve in the tabernacle, stand before the people to minister, and it was a very special ministry that they had. Moses says to him, are you demanding more? Basically, Moses is saying, you're really complaining against the Lord. It's not against me, but you're complaining against the Lord who has given you your lot and your station. And the bottom line of this reading is that we should always respect in fear and holiness the lot that the Lord has given us for our life. And when we seek to covet something that someone else has, that's the danger zone. We just have to be really careful that we do what the Lord has given us to do to the very best of our abilities, as if we are doing the task specifically for the Lord. And that's what the Bible tells us to do. Well, unfortunately, Korah didn't do this, and he loses his life, and his family loses their life, and the ground actually, I believe this literally happened, the ground actually opened up and swallowed up he and his wife and his children, his whole family. And you might wonder, well, why did the children and the wife have to die? Well, the commentary said that this illustrates an Old Testament principle of solidarity and collectiveness, collective punishment of the offspring. And so God did what was right in that circumstance, and the earth swallowed them up, and they were no more. 250 men were offering incense. They lost their lives, and 14,700 people in this moment lost their life because of a plague. Now remember, everyone was involved in this rebellion against Moses, which really, in its baseness, was a rebellion against the Lord. And that's what we need to understand today. The incense, I found it very interesting. If you look at what Aaron does to stop the rebellion and to try to help things, he actually lifts up incense for the people. Incense in the Bible is a symbol of prayer, because when you burn incense, it's black smoke and you can visibly see it rising up. And that's just a symbol of our prayers as they rise up to the Lord. So Aaron is taking incense among the people, and in effect, as he moves among them, it's as if he probably is offering prayers up for them. So he is interceding for the people. The Bible says Aaron stood between the dead and the living, interceding for them with these prayers of incense, and that's when the plague stopped. So no more than 14,700 needed to die that day. And here is the life lesson for us to think about today. One censer in the hand of a man of God far excelled the 250 people who had censers in their hand, who were also offering up incense, but they were out of relationship with him. So one man in relationship with God offering prayers avails so much more than 250 offering up incense that do not have a relationship with him. You know, James 5:16 says, the prayers of a righteous person avails much, and that is so true. We must do everything we can to stay in right relationship with the Lord, fellowshipping with him, walking with him, seeking his word, studying his word as you're doing this very moment. So, even though the earth fell and swallowed up Korah for their rebellion and his family, when we, as people of God, walk with the Lord, our problems can just fall and sink right before us as well, because God will swallow them up. That's how I like to look at it. I like to turn the negative into the positive and look at this story. While the earth in that moment swallowed up his sin, the earth in our life can, with God's help, just swallow up our problems if we are walking in fellowship with the Lord, putting him first in his life. And certainly the Lord will appreciate and hear the prayers of a righteous man, a righteous person, and as we are interceding for the lives of others. So maybe he's asking you today to hold up that incense and pray for yourself or pray for someone else in your life. Maybe he's asking you today, as he called Moses to do that day, to stand firm and watch the Lord envelop the problems that were just popping up around him. So whatever it is, I would invite you invite you to stand firm in your relationship with the Lord. Continue to pray, and just remember James 5:16, the prayers of a righteous person avails much. Well, we're going to continue in the book of Numbers over the next couple of days. I hope you will join me tomorrow. There is so much more to uncover as we continue to delve into the treasures of the Bible. I pray that this has been a blessing to you, and I will see you again tomorrow. Until tomorrow, shalom.